South Wales. AU is a quiet town with such a low crime rate that residents don't even lock their doors at night. According to former Mayor Max Boyd, this sugarcane, banana and cattle farming area is a great place to live. The Bank of New South Wales building has stood on the main street corner of Murwillumbah for 133 years, quietly carrying on business as it has for generations, simple and sturdy with thick brick walls and a flat roof. Its secret strong room was once considered the safest place to store cash in the area, but it turned out it wasn't so impenetrable. The quiet town of Murwillumbah was anything but quiet until the night of November 23, 1978, when a major crime occurred. Murwillumbah became the shocking scene of the biggest bank robbery in Australian history. It was a daring, meticulous, perfectly professional plan, based on an old script. The robbery went down in history as a perfect crime that caused no loss of life. But for the past 45 years, the case has never been solved, becoming an enduring mystery like a legend in the small riverside town. After generations of peace, a bank robbery rocked Murwillumbah on November 23, 1978. Australian police believe the perpetrators of the biggest bank robbery in Australian history were a gang who had been in and out of prison for years and had meticulously planned the crime to steal $10 million without causing any casualties. The Transecurity armored truck that drives between banks in the Queensland suburbs and Sydney, New South Wales, is a familiar sight in Murwillumbah. Traffic in the town sometimes comes to a halt overnight as armed security guards unload money into the bank. Every third Wednesday of the month, a large sum of money is delivered from the federal government to meet wage and pension payments. On the afternoon of November 23rd, the Transecurity armored truck and a team of armed guards escorted the $10 million to the Murwillumbah bank. That night, the robbers broke the lock on the back door of the bank, but the alarm did not go off, causing the bank security to be unable to react in time. The robbers then used a diamond-tipped electromagnetic drill bit, clamped to the safe, to drill 18 centimeters deep holes, 5 millimeters from the most important point in the safe lock. Next, they used a wired medical cystoscope to break the lock. It is known that the robbers only needed to drill a few millimeters off, and their plot would have failed completely. After emptying the money, they jammed the safe, destroyed the two locks and the safe handle, and erased traces such as fingerprints, footprints, and hair. Mr. Alan Mitchell, a witness at the Imperial Hotel near the scene on the night of the crime, said that even though he was sitting in the hotel lobby, looking straight at the bank and even parked his car right in front of the scene, he did not notice anything unusual. Mr. Mitchell is a blacksmith with many years of experience, and according to him, the thieves must have been very skilled to be able to drill dozens of holes up to 18 centimeters deep without making any loud noise. More notably, the robbery occurred at 10 p.m. when the street was very deserted and quiet. Mr. Murphy Gordon, a switchboard operator at the nearby post office, and all the police on duty on the night of November 23rd at the town police station 100m from the bank were also unaware of the robbery. At 7:30 a.m. on November 24th, an employee of Australia's leading security company MSS discovered that the back door of the bank had been broken. Immediately, a series of locksmiths and safe-breaking experts in Brisbane were brought to the scene to open the safe that had been looted by the robbers. But after 5 hours of brainstorming, all failed. Finally, a group of welders were forced to use a gas welder, sledgehammer and drill to break through the wall of the vault and from their drill into the safe. At 4:30 p.m., the welders finally drilled a hole big enough for Mr. Frank Charleston, the New South Wales police chief, to look inside the safe. The total damage was up to $1.7 million, equivalent to $10 million at the present time. The police could not trace the stolen money, and the robbers and their loot had probably reached Sydney by then. So suddenly, the quiet town of Murwillumbah was flooded with police. The townspeople were shocked to see hundreds of police officers examining the scene, searching alleyways, and checking hotels and motels where they believed the robbers had visited. Some residents had no idea that the town's bank had so much money, and for them it was the biggest event to happen in Murwillumbah since the historic floods of 1954. News of the daring robbery soon spread across Australia, and locals rushed to sell souvenirs bearing the image of the Murwillumbah Bank and the words of the police chief when he discovered the missing $1 million. To this day, the bank and the robbery remain a tourist attraction in the town of Murwillumbah. Gordon Smith, the cleaner who was tasked with cleaning up the scene that day, said the safecrackers eventually blew up the entire wall, and the scene was filled with dust and rubble, hampering the evidence-gathering process. While authorities turned the small town upside down in search of the mysterious robbers, Murwillumbah residents came up with a series of theories. Were the perpetrators local? Did they infiltrate the town months before to scout out the situation and sit at the Imperial Hotel that night to keep watch? Did they plant a man in the bank to know exactly when the money was transferred and the layout of the place? Up to 25 detectives from 3 different states were dispatched to Murwillumbah to solve the case, and the government offered a reward of up to $250,000 for anyone who could provide information about the robbers, but all were ultimately unsuccessful. Australian police began to suspect Graham Kinneberg's gang, one of the most notorious criminals in the Greater Victoria area, because they had used similar methods to steal about $1 million earlier. Specifically, Graham's gang had stolen $350,000 from an American Express branch in Melbourne, a $250,000 jewelry box in Sydney, and $400,000 from 9 other robberies. Despite suspicions about Graham, authorities could not find any evidence that he or his accomplices were behind the robberies. And when Graham was killed in a home invasion in December 2003, the secret died with him. In early 2021, a man named Bertie Kidd claimed that Graham had nothing to do with the shocking robbery 44 years ago, and that Bertie was the mastermind. Although he is now an 88-year-old man with Parkinson's disease and was released in 2016 after 27 years in prison, Bertie was the culprit of a series of daring crimes. His tricks were so unbelievable that Bertie collaborated with the famous writer Simon Griffin and wrote 3 best-selling books about his years in and out of prison. Bertie was first incarcerated in the late 1960s and spent 2 years in prison for printing counterfeit money, then continued to serve many prison sentences for masterminding a number of robberies of factories and banks. Bertie's name only really came to the attention of the police after 2 gangster bosses, Roy Thurger and Des Lewis, were shot dead by an unknown assailant in 1991 and 1992, and the murder weapon left at the scene was identified as Bertie's. The only person who could provide an alibi for Bertie was his ex-wife Christine Gristiotti, but just as she wanted to change her story and begin to accept protection from the local police, she mysteriously died. Despite escaping 2 murder charges, in 2004, Bertie was arrested by the police at the rare age of 71 for masterminding a series of armed robberies in Sydney. Bertie revealed that the key point of the case was not the location of the town of Murwillumbah, the bank's layout, or the structure of the safe, but the armored car carrying the money. Bertie and his gang had been secretly tracking the car for months because they had originally planned to rob it, but he had switched to robbing a bank. According to the former robber, he changed his mind because robbing an armored car would mean the gang would have to face an elite squad of guards, and someone would likely get hurt or killed. If the gang survived, they would be charged with murder or armed robbery, while if they robbed a bank, they would only have to plead guilty to theft. The plan was again changed when Bertie was arrested for burglary at the Murwillumbah Hotel, but he had already planned the heist meticulously for 3 months, and when the news began to cover the crime, Bertie watched the news on TV in the prison common room. He also revealed that the inside man who tipped off the robbers about the November 23rd cash haul was not a local policeman, security guard, or bank employee. The former robber wanted to clear the name of anyone suspected by the townspeople over the past 44 years. According to Bertie, the reason the robbery went so smoothly was because the gang got lucky. It was so hot that night that no one wanted to leave their homes, allowing the robbers to break into the safe for hours without being noticed or heard by passers-by. Bertie also told his men to jam the safe to distract the police, giving the robbers more time to escape, and if they didn't, they could take refuge in his house on the beach nearby. The mastermind insisted that the gang had taken more than $2 million, not $1.7 million as reported in the press, and that the gang members would never be caught because almost all of them had died after living comfortably off the stolen money. Bertie is now the only surviving member, and some of the money they stole has been distributed to the relatives of some of the members who unfortunately received prison sentences for other crimes. The Australian police are still investigating the case, and New South Wales Police Commissioner Brendan Cullen is keen to work directly with Bertie if he has such valuable information about the case. If notorious criminal Bertie Kidd is believed to have been the mastermind, the great mystery of Australia's biggest bank heist would be solved. The legend of Murwillumbah would be over. And according to Bertie Kidd, the heist he masterminded was still the perfect crime.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And as always, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.